Now I would love your calls on whether the UK should scrap all of its nuclear weapons. 0207 862 2222. So the reason I'm asking is that the SNP leader John Swinney launched his party's manifesto yesterday with a pledge to continue to strive for independence and to rejoin the EU. The Scottish National Party has also promised to end spending on nuclear weapons and remove them completely from the UK. Swinney has said the estimated £2.7 billion spent on a nuclear deterrent could instead be spent on hospitals and schools. What do you think, Cristo?
I don't love nuclear weapons, but we need them because it's just an obvious deterrent at a time when the situation internationally is less stable than it's been in an awfully long time, at a time where we've got people like Putin and various others who are seem quite happy to want to assert their dominance. I think there's a good argument to say that perhaps the threats from traditional warfare have changed and that maybe we need to also redirect funds into different types of warfare. But the idea of getting rid of the nuclear deterrent, I think, is absolutely ridiculous.
What do you think?
I, for the same reasons, believe the exact opposite. I think the fact that we are in a moment historically where we are at risk of conflict. We're no longer in this unipolar post-Cold War world. We're in this, multipolar world. The fact that we are kind of at that risk, Iran and Israel tensions, Russia and Ukraine, I don't feel safer knowing that everyone in this situation has nuclear weapons, because ultimately this whole idea about the deterrent, it's basically a thought experiment, because really the only way that you can eliminate the risk of nuclear weapons being used is to eliminate nuclear weapons.
Is it not analogous, Cristo, to saying, right, I'm really worried about being hit by a firework, so I'm going to fill my house with them?
Well, I don't think that anyone... I mean, I would definitely have fireworks if all the other neighbours were planning on directing fireworks at my house. Then I would definitely have a box of fireworks.
But we know what's going to happen. Your house is going to blow up. You're going to light one by accident.
Well, I very much doubt that we're going to light a nuclear weapon by accident. But the mere... Either no one has them or we all have them. What? And at the end of the day, none of the other countries are going to get rid of them. So the idea that we would then get rid of ours and that would make us safer, I'm afraid I think that that's illogical.
Well, in order to move to a kind of general disarmament, that we have to start somewhere. But what's interesting about the mistakes, there's a great book called Command and Control that details how we have literally been minutes away because of miscommunication, mishaps, mistakes from dropping nuclear weapons, accidentally firing nuclear weapons, which would set off a series of events that has literally unimaginable consequences.
There was the moment in the 80s, for sure, where the Russians had 4 out of 5 switches flicked or whatever, and someone said, and this doesn't look... They thought they were being attacked by the USA, but it was a mistake, basically. So, yeah, if you have one, it can go wrong. I mean, we had a story the other day. There was one of these nuclear submarines tried to test fire a torpedo, and it just plops out the front of the boat. It didn't have a head on it, but... obviously...
But then I just...
That's a concern.
I don't get the logic. So we get rid of ours in the hope that maybe other nations would get rid of theirs and then we're safer? That doesn't make sense.
It's also, to me, just the scale, there are 12,000 nuclear weapons in the world. It would take if 100 of those were used, it would create a dust cloud so significant that we would essentially it would block direct sunlight.
It's gone. If one goes off, it's gone. Yeah.
So why do we need 12,000 nuclear weapons when 100 would end life as we know it?
Then why do we need an
army? And we are spending $91 billion per year on nuclear weapons.
Okay.
We could solve world hunger if we spent $40 billion.
We'd have a lot of money free. It's interesting that the SNP are saying it, because obviously they've got shipyards and they've got nuclear facilities in Scotland which are job dependent on this policy. George on Facebook says the naivety is breathtaking. The nuclear deterrent and the establishment of NATO has maintained the peace in Europe since the Second World War. Mark on Facebook says, I've always thought the nuclear deterrent was a little bit un-British. I know this is my British exceptionalism coming out in me here, but I always thought we could have put that money into doing something smarter. Just beef up the SAS, maybe. Maybe that's the way to do it.
Well, again, if this argument was, look, the threat has changed and maybe we should spend these billions on, increasing, our cyber intelligence, increasing various other military departments, well, then I could see some logic in that. But the idea of getting rid of the nuclear deterrent to then spend it on hospitals and and schools, which may not even exist if there was a nuclear attack from someone else, because the deterrent doesn't exist, seems to me slightly backward.
But then Tony Benn famously said, we're spending so much, this is my impression of him, spending so much money on nuclear weapons, we've got the best defended homeless people in the world.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the madness of it, isn't it?
Well, why does it have to be either or?
I mean, the biggest risk, the actual biggest risk that people face are things like homelessness, food insecurity, not, NHS waiting times being unconscionable. That's actually what people are at risk of, not this kind of imagined idea.
Let's take a call.
Consequential if someone launches a nuclear bomb at us.
We're going to have to try and swerve it. Ian in Staffordshire, hi.
Hi, Jeremy. Hope you're well again.
You too. I gather you were in the Air Force, Ian, weren't you, I think?
Yeah, I was in for 11 and a half years, and it went from 110,000 people, personnel, and when I checked a couple of years ago, there's only 37 personnel left. We haven't got the forces to fight a traditional war. No. We need to have the nuclear deterrent.
But you can't, it doesn't work just having one large bomb, does it? And we see this from Ukraine. In the end, wars are fought in an old-fashioned way with boots on the ground. I guess we need personnel, Ian.
Yeah, we haven't got the personnel to fight a normal war as such, like we did in the Falklands and in the Gulf.
So you would say keep the nuclear deterrent and then hopefully no one starts anything?
Yeah, we've got President Putin is going to China. He's gone to North Korea. He's trying to get people on his side.
I know, it's always cooking. I know, it's all heating up. Thanks, Ian, very much indeed. Thank you. I'd love to talk more, but we'll go to our break now and we'll talk about the papers and everything else.